On June 15, 1943, a classified military intelligence report landed on the desk of General Henry Hap Arnold, the commanding officer of the United States Army Air Forces in Washington. The grainy aerial photographs revealed a startling development. The German engineers had achieved the seemingly impossible. The Messerschmitt Me-262, a jet-powered fighter aircraft, had successfully completed test flights, reaching a top speed of 540 miles per hour. This was a staggering 100 miles per hour faster than any American fighter plane then in production. As Arnold studied the troubling images, he grew increasingly concerned. American pilots were struggling to survive in aircraft that could not exceed 450 miles per hour. The emergence of the German jet fighter threatened to overwhelm them. Intelligence estimates suggested the Me-262 could soon enter active combat operations. In the span of just over a year, the United States found itself in a dire situation. It possessed no jet fighter capabilities whatsoever. No operational jet fighters, no active jet fighter development programs, and no jet fighter designs in the works. Faced with this alarming reality, General Arnold took immediate action, placing a call to the Wright Field Facility in Ohio. His directive was clear and urgent. Locate someone who can build a jet fighter, and do it within 6 months or less. The response he received, however, was blunt and discouraging. The experts informed him that the U.S. was years behind Germany in jet engine technology, and that designing and constructing a jet fighter from scratch would require a minimum of 3 years, an impossible task. Undeterred, Arnold famously retorted, "Then find me someone who doesn't know it's impossible." Little did he know that 3,000 miles away, in Burbank, California, a remarkable individual was already hard at work on a revolutionary jet fighter design. Kelly Johnson, a 33-year-old engineer, had already sketched preliminary designs for a jet fighter in his personal notebook. These designs were created without authorization, funding, or permission, directly violating War Department orders that prohibited Lockheed from pursuing jet technology. Yet, in just 143 days, Kelly Johnson's illegal design work would produce the XP-80 Shooting Star, America's first operational jet fighter. It would arrive 7 days ahead of an impossible deadline, establishing principles of rapid innovation that would shape American aerospace engineering for the next 80 years. Born in Ishpeming, Michigan, Kelly Johnson was the 7th of 9 children in his family. A Swedish immigrant clan, barely scraping by on meager iron mine wages. The family's financial straits were so dire that young Kelly often trudged to school without even basic footwear, even in the biting cold of winter. Yet, this adversity could not diminish Johnson's almost supernatural gift, an uncanny ability to visualize airflow, structural stresses, and mechanical systems in vivid 3 dimensions. In 1932, while still an undergraduate at the University of Michigan, the prodigious Kelly Johnson was summoned to analyze wind tunnel data for Lockheed's new Model 10 Electra aircraft. The tests had uncovered severe stability issues. For 3 days, Johnson pored over the technical data, then submitted an unsolicited report pinpointing the exact source of the problem. The twin-tail configuration was generating destructive interference patterns. Lockheed's chief aerodynamicist initially dismissed a student's report recommending a complete redesign. However, subsequent testing proved the student, who was only 22 years old at the time, to be correct. Impressed, Lockheed offered him a job before he even graduated. By 1943, this young engineer, Kelly Johnson, had become Lockheed's chief research engineer and the primary designer of the P-38 Lightning, one of America's most successful fighter aircraft. Yet, Johnson recognized that the future belonged to jet technology, a realization that would soon put him at odds with military bureaucracy. In 1939, Lockheed engineer Nathan Price had designed an axial flow turbojet and an entire fighter aircraft around it, the radical L-133 blended wing design. This forward-thinking concept, however, was met with skepticism from the military establishment. Johnson closely studied Price's work, recognizing its potential but also identifying fundamental issues. He commenced his own theoretical investigations on jet fighters, filling notebooks with calculations. However, in March 1941, the War Department issued a directive ordering Lockheed to immediately cease all jet engine research. All resources were to concentrate solely on P-38 production. The directive was unequivocal, commanding Lockheed Aircraft Corporation to discontinue without exception all activities related to jet propulsion systems. Adhering strictly to the letter of the directive, Johnson halted his efforts. Toiling diligently on jet designs, Johnson dedicated his official hours at the office and his personal time at home to meticulously filling notebooks. Though this clandestine activity violated the spirit of military orders and potentially breached his employment contract, he was determined to exceed his authority and prepare for the moment when America would desperately need his secret creations. By spring 1943, irrefutable intelligence confirmed that Germany was nearing the operational deployment of jet fighters, a chilling prospect, as American bomber losses over Germany were already approaching a staggering 10% per mission. The implications were grave, as the entire strategic bombing campaign could be jeopardized if German jets entered service. In June 1943, General Arnold's staff convened an urgent meeting with aircraft manufacturers. The findings were devastating. The Bell XP-59 was too slow to match existing propeller fighters, and no American company had a combat-ready jet fighter in development. Then, someone recalled that Lockheed had been exploring jet concepts before the shutdown. A call was placed to Burbank, reaching Lockheed's Vice President of Engineering, Hal Hibbert. Hibbert hesitated, as Lockheed had no official jet fighter designs. However, Kelly Johnson had an entire file cabinet full of secret jet fighter concepts. Over the course of 2 years, Johnson had secretly developed a comprehensive set of designs for a single-engine jet fighter. Summoned to Hibbert's office, he presented 3 notebooks filled with detailed calculations, drawings, and specifications. The proposed aircraft would utilize a British de Havilland Goblin engine and feature a straight wing optimized for transonic speeds, constructed using conventional techniques. Hibbert spent 2 hours carefully examining the designs. Impressed by Johnson's work, he promptly contacted Arnold's office with a bold proposal. They could build the jet fighter in just 6 months, defying the conventional wisdom that such a project would require a minimum of 3 years. Confident in Johnson's plans, Hibbert instructed him to send a representative to review the designs further. This unexpected breakthrough promised to dramatically accelerate the development of jet-powered military aircraft, challenging the established timelines and construction methods. The Lockheed engineering team had been secretly developing a cutting-edge jet fighter design for over 2 years, working tirelessly in their own time. On June 21, 1943, Colonel Ralph Swafford arrived at the Burbank facility, expecting to review preliminary concepts. Instead, he was presented with complete engineering drawings, including detailed specifications, structural calculations, systems integration, weight and balance data, performance predictions, and manufacturing procedures. Swafford was taken aback by the level of progress, asking Johnson how long they had been working on this project. Kelly Johnson admitted that it had been 2 years of personal research, despite being ordered to halt jet development at Lockheed. The team was confident they could have a prototype flying in 180 days or less, eager to showcase their innovative design. Swafford was stunned by the comprehensive nature of the plans, a testament to the dedication and technical expertise of the Lockheed engineers who had persevered in the face of official directives. Swafford intently scrutinized Johnson's designs for 6 uninterrupted hours, posing increasingly technical queries which Johnson promptly addressed. Finally, Swafford inquired, "If you can truly construct this within 180 days, we're interested, but can you actually accomplish it?" Johnson met his gaze. "Provide me with 23 engineers, 30 mechanics, and complete authority. No oversight committees, no progress updates, no bureaucratic reviews. I'll report directly to you, and no one else. We'll have your prototype ready in 150 days. Johnson was shaving 30 days off his own estimate, driven to prove the concept. "I don't have authorization for this arrangement, in fact, I don't even have a." Here is the paraphrased text. The proposed project would necessitate approvals from multiple departments, contractual review, and competitive bidding, a lengthy process. However, Johnson dismissed the need for such formalities, declaring they would commence work the following day. He assured that if the endeavor failed, Lockheed would absorb the costs, despite Swafford's concerns over the legality of this arrangement. Swafford reluctantly agreed, granting a 150-day deadline to deliver the prototype to Morocco by November 17. Failure to meet this deadline would result in the project's cancellation. The agreement was sealed with a mere handshake, foregoing any official contracts, purchase orders, or paperwork, a flagrant violation of procurement regulations. The Lockheed plant was operating at maximum capacity, with every square foot dedicated to P-38 production. Faced with a dire need for additional space, Johnson found only one available option: a parking lot adjacent to a plastics factory that emitted truly unpleasant odors from its chemical processes. Undeterred, Johnson rented a used circus tent, erected it over the parking lot, and declared it the new home for Lockheed's jet fighter program. The tent, measuring 60 feet by 100 feet, offered little protection from the elements, lacking climate control and plagued by the overwhelming stench from the neighboring plastics factory. Engineers, Irv Culver was a devoted fan of the comic strip Lil Abner, which featured a mysterious location known as the Skunk Works. One day, when answering his phone, Culver casually referred to himself as Skunk Works inside Man Culver, and the name stuck, later modified to Skunk Works to avoid copyright concerns. The working conditions were notoriously challenging, but Johnson thrived in this environment. The miserable conditions deterred bureaucrats and military oversight committees from visiting the cramped, sweltering workspace. Corporate executives also avoided inspecting the progress made in the stifling heat. This allowed Johnson and his team to work without interference. Johnson personally handpicked his team by recruiting talented individuals from other Lockheed programs. Eager recruits flocked to Johnson's bold challenge. "We're constructing a jet fighter in just 150 days, he declared at 11:50, outlining the daunting task ahead. "We'll be working in a circus tent next to a factory that reeks of death, toiling 10-hour days, 6 days a week without overtime pay. There's no contract. If we fail, we all lose our jobs." Yet undeterred, 28 individuals immediately volunteered. From the outset, Johnson instilled his uncompromising vision. "We'll build this aircraft faster than anyone imagines possible," he asserted. No committees, no progress reports, no bureaucratic reviews. Every person here has the authority to make decisions in their domain. If you spot an issue, you fix it. The Swafford Squadron operated with a singular focus, answering to no one but their commanding officer and delivering results without excuses. The project commenced on June 26, 1943, and Johnson's team faced a daunting set of challenges that would have derailed conventional programs. Firstly, they lacked a crucial component: the engine. The British had pledged 2 de Havilland Goblin engines, but these were still in England. Undeterred, Johnson had to design the entire aircraft around the blueprint specifications of these engines. This was an immense undertaking, as he had to calculate every dimension and devise flexible mounting systems to accommodate potential variations, all without the actual engines in hand. Through sheer mathematical prowess, Johnson overcame this seemingly insurmountable obstacle, demonstrating the team's unwavering determination to succeed against the odds. The Lockheed team faced numerous challenges in developing the revolutionary XP-80 jet fighter. Tasked with building the airframe based on incomplete blueprints, they managed to construct the first prototype, which arrived in August and fit perfectly. When the second aircraft showed up 3 weeks later, Johnson's crew swiftly installed it in just 18 hours. However, the team had never before assembled a jet-powered aircraft, as the XP-80 relied on cutting-edge technologies foreign to conventional fighters. Johnson's solution was to embrace continuous experimentation, building, testing, modifying, and rebuilding components until they functioned flawlessly. One critical issue nearly derailed the entire program. During ground engine runs, the air intake ducts suddenly imploded, sending debris through the engine and destroying it completely. This setback threatened to undermine the XP-80's development, but the determined Lockheed team persevered, overcoming this obstacle through their innovative problem-solving approach. The engineering team faced a series of daunting challenges in their race against the clock. With one of their two 1420 engines out of commission and no replacements available, Johnson took matters into his own hands. In a remarkable feat, he personally redesigned the intake 1426 ducts in just 36 hours, reinforcing them 1429 while preserving the critical aerodynamic 1431 profile. Unable to test the design due to the lack of a spare engine, the team held their breath as they installed the remaining engine 1438 and ran it to full power. To their relief, the reinforced 1441 ducts held firm. However, the third problem proved equally vexing. The project was falling behind schedule. By 1448 October, they were already 3 weeks behind, with only 6 1450 weeks remaining before the critical deadline. Failure to meet the deadline would mean the project's cancellation. Undeterred, Johnson 1456 doubled down, leading the team to work 7-day 1458 weeks. Personally putting in 16-hour days, Johnson tackled problems in real 1504 time, making instant decisions that 1507 would shape the project's outcome. The XP-80 was an impressive feat of engineering, designed and constructed in a record-breaking 143 days. On November 8, the sleek, bullet-shaped prototype with its straight wings, wing-root air intakes, and single-jet engine was rolled out from the circus tent, looking deceptively fast even while stationary. Although they had missed their internal deadline by 8 days, the team was still 7 days ahead of the deadline set by Swofford. The prototype was then transported to Muroc Army Airfield for flight testing. On January 8, 1944, test pilot Milo Burcham took the controls of Lulu Bell and prepared for the historic maiden flight. Lockheed's seasoned test pilot, Burcham, faced an unprecedented challenge when tasked with flying the cutting-edge XP-80 jet. Despite his extensive experience, he had never before handled a jet aircraft. As Johnson briefed him, the controls were designed with extreme sensitivity, boasting a 15-to-1 boost ratio on the ailerons. Small control inputs would elicit dramatic responses, requiring a delicate touch. Burcham cautiously applied full power and released the brakes. The XP-80 accelerated smoothly and took to the skies after a remarkably short ground roll of less than 2,000 feet. Climbing to 1,000 feet, Burcham immediately recognized that something was amiss. The aircraft proved to be wildly over-responsive, far beyond his expectations. Just 5 minutes after takeoff, Burcham safely returned the XP-80 to the runway. "It's too sensitive," he reported, highlighting the aircraft's unforgiving handling characteristics that would require extensive refinement before it could be deemed ready for operational use. The XP-80 prototype underwent a critical control system redesign after initial test flights revealed the need for a more responsive interface. Pilot Johnson's review of the data led him to conclude that the aircraft's performance was not the issue, but rather the pilot's heavy-handed approach to the controls. Burcham subsequently adopted a more delicate touch, treating the controls as sensitive instruments, and the XP-80 responded magnificently. On his second test flight, Burcham accelerated the aircraft to an impressive 490 miles per hour. Pushing the boundaries even further, he achieved a remarkable 502 miles per hour in level flight on the third sortie, making the XP-80 the first American jet to exceed the 500 miles per hour milestone. By March 1944, the XP-80's performance had surpassed that of every fighter aircraft then in service, with a top speed of 558 miles per hour. The Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, a revolutionary jet fighter, soared to impressive heights. Reaching a top speed of 600 miles per hour and a service ceiling of 45,000 feet, it could climb at an astounding rate of 45,580 feet per minute. General Arnold, recognizing its potential, immediately ordered full-scale production. Lockheed secured contracts for 13 service test aircraft, followed by orders for 1,000 production models. However, one detail puzzled procurement officers: The official contract didn't arrive at Lockheed until October 16, 1943, 4 months after work had begun and nearly a month before the prototype's completion. This was an unprecedented reversal of the typical process, where contracts precede work. Congressional committees questioned the unauthorized expenditures, but General Arnold's decisive response effectively ended the inquiry. Undeterred, they pressed forward, building the game-changing P-80 shooting star. The most skilled aviator in the United States emerged victorious in a mere 143 days, largely disregarding established protocols. Perhaps the issue lies not with their methods, but rather with the regulations themselves. The P-80 shooting star, unfortunately, missed the opportunity to participate in World War II. The first operational variant of the aircraft did not reach combat units until after Germany's surrender. The jet fighter developed in response to the threat posed by the Me-262 never encountered its German counterpart. However, the P-80's true legacy extended beyond its combat record, as it gave rise to the Skunk Works, a hub of systematic innovation. The humble circus tent became the birthplace of groundbreaking advancements. Johnson formalized the successful approaches into Kelly's 14 rules, principles that would guide Lockheed's advanced development for decades to come. The philosophy of the 1928 initiative was groundbreaking. Innovation flourishes 1932 when talented individuals are granted authority, 1934 trust, and freedom from bureaucratic 1937 constraints. The Skunk Works division produced the 1939 U-2 spy plane, the State Route 71, Blackbird 1943 capable of reaching Mach 3.2, the F-17 Nighthawk 1947 stealth fighter, and the F-22 Raptor. 1950 Everyone pushed the boundaries of 1952 engineering. Tracing its lineage 1955 back to Johnson's unconventional approach and his 1957 willingness to circumvent regulations in 2000 pursuit of results. The P-80 story raises 2004 complex questions about 2005 innovation, authority, and rules. Kelly 2009 Johnson defied direct military orders 2012 by continuing jet research. He committed 2015 Lockheed's resources to an unauthorized 2017 project, beginning work without 2019 contracts. Established procurement protocols intended to uphold fairness and avert waste were disregarded. By conventional standards, Johnson's actions could be construed as insubordination, even fraud. Yet, his unauthorized endeavors yielded precisely what America urgently required. This contradiction is profound. The regulations existed for valid reasons. Adhering to them, however, would have delayed the American jet fighter by years. Johnson grasped a fundamental truth: rules are instruments for achieving objectives, not ends in themselves. When protocols impede critical goals, the choice is not between blindly following procedures or chaos. The choice lies between rigid compliance and accomplishing what truly matters. Johnson was no. In 1990, the renowned aeronautical engineer Kelly Johnson passed away at the age of 80, having designed over 40 aircraft and earned every major accolade in the field of aviation, including the prestigious Medal of Freedom. Johnson was a maverick who defied conventional wisdom, rejecting rules and bureaucratic constraints that he believed hindered progress. He maintained unwavering standards of technical excellence, prioritizing innovative problem-solving over rigid adherence to protocol. As Johnson reflected in a 1985 interview, the key to breakthrough technology lies not in massive teams, bloated budgets, and protracted development timelines, but in empowering talented individuals with the authority to make decisions and the freedom to operate without bureaucratic interference. The seasoned documentary scriptwriter chuckled as they recounted the tale. Regulations are meant to be challenged when they hinder progress, the engineer proclaimed, his eyes twinkling with a hint of mischief. We achieved the impossible by selectively disregarding the rules that stood in our way. The interviewer raised a brow, but wasn't that a dangerous gamble? The engineer nodded solemnly, absolutely. I risked my entire career on the success of the P-80 program. If it had failed, I would have faced severe consequences. He paused, a wistful smile playing on his lips. Yet, sometimes one must be willing to take that leap, to push the boundaries of what's deemed possible. After all, the greatest achievements often lie beyond the confines of convention. The Skunk Works teams, guided by Kelly's visionary approach, have left an indelible mark on the aerospace industry. Despite the demolition of the iconic Circus tent facility in Burbank, their pioneering spirit lives on. Today, over 150 P-80 F-80 shooting stars are preserved in museums worldwide, a testament to their enduring legacy. The State Route 71 Blackbird, still the world's fastest manned aircraft, the F-117 Nighthawk, the first stealth fighter, and the U-2 spy plane that helped prevent nuclear war. All these groundbreaking innovations emerged from the Skunk Works' relentless pursuit of the impossible. Even when faced with seemingly insurmountable challenges, modern aerospace companies continue to draw inspiration from the Skunk Works philosophy. While I may have risked my career by prioritizing the mission over personal consequences, I believe that true responsibility lies in pushing the boundaries of what is possible. The Skunk Works legacy extends far beyond museum displays, serving as a guiding light for those who dare to dream and innovate in the face of adversity. Timelines may appear overly constrained, and requirements excessively rigorous. In such cases, organizations often turn to the Skunk Works model, posing the question, can we assemble a small, empowered team, free from bureaucratic obstacles, and trust them to deliver? Sometimes, the answer is negative. Yet, when groundbreaking innovation is the objective, the response may well be affirmative. And when institutions possess the fortitude to embrace this approach, remarkable achievements can unfold. This was exemplified in 1943, when an engineer, defying orders to cease his efforts, clandestinely designed America's inaugural jet fighter in personal notebooks during off-duty hours. Kelly Johnson's technical rebellion laid the groundwork for the nation's jet aviation capabilities. The unauthorized 2438 handshake agreement facilitated the rapid development of an aircraft in just 143 days, a feat that would have taken conventional programs 3 years to accomplish. The P-80 shooting star demonstrated that established protocols can occasionally serve as impediments to be surmounted, rather than immutable directives to be strictly adhered to. In certain instances, a single 2456 engineer, operating without official sanction and in a makeshift workspace adjacent to a factory with a pungent odor, can profoundly alter the trajectory of history.